Greetings, kindred. I am Voivode Maquette, and welcome back to our world of darkness, where today we're going to be discussing something vitally important. This video is going to be going up on all three of our channels, the Vampire the Masquerade, the Hunter the Reckoning, and the Werewolf the Apocalypse channels. Now, the reason for that is because this is a massively important topic to me and in gaming in general, in my opinion. The biggest war of ages, consent. This is something that gets overlooked on occasion, and it really shouldn't be, because this is how you keep your players safe. This goes out to the storytellers as much as it goes out to the players, and I want to go over what my way of keeping my players safe is, because over the years of what I've done, like doing what I do, I've had to kick players out. It's not about keeping everybody happy. It's about keeping everybody safe. And that's just the way I see it. I have heard horror stories about people who get touched, grabbed, picked up, moved around, kissed, all without their consent. I've heard stories of, oh, I discussed things with my storyteller multiple occasions, and there are things that I was promised would never be in the game because it's a personal issue for me. But without warning, I was confronted with it. We're not here to traumatize our players. Some people, I will grant you this, some people see role playing as a form of therapy. We're not. We're not trained for therapy whatsoever, but I try to hold space for everyone. I try to give everybody a way to not only participate in a game that's fun, a hobby that we all have in common, but also not feel like they're going to be overtly attacked in any way. So, that is what we are here to discuss today. But first, I want to go over this. Well, let's talk about our sponsor. This video is being sponsored by AIDs Ministries AIDS Assist. AIDS Ministry has emerged as one of the state of Indiana's leading AIDS service organizations, recognizing the link between people's health and quality of life. The first staff and volunteers set out to assist those facing HIV and AIDS. They provide the tools to help concerned individuals practice prevention in everything they do. AIDS Ministries, AIDS Assist, educates the community and works with them to find effective, common sense solutions to preventing HIV and assisting those who have HIV. Check out the link in the description to check out together.takemehome.org. This incredibly simple, comprehensive website will take you all over to help you with various aspects, such as how to take the free HIV test that they will send you that you can do in your home in under 3 minutes. I myself did one of these tests on video. Again, link in the description if you want to just have company while you're taking it. I'll walk you through step by step on how to do it. Not to mention, they also provide YouTube videos on how to handle the situation yourself. And if you are interested in doing any type of donation or anything like that, it is always greatly appreciated. This is about reducing the stigma, about talking about our health. We are adults. We can talk about this. It's not something that needs to be hidden or shamed on or anything like that. Even if you are not currently sexually active or anything like that in your life, taking these tests is still a mark towards maturity and reducing that stigma. So please feel free to order your free HIV test today. All right, so now that we have taken the time to honor the amazing people at the AIDS Ministries and AIDS Assist, let's get on to today's topic, which is consent. What exactly is consent when it comes to RPGs, especially in a game set in the world of darkness, because there's so much lack of consent. Werewolves don't take a moment to consider that. A hunter is not going to ask if they can stake that vampire. Vampires, on a nightly basis, hunt down and take things from people without their consent. It's part of the game. But that doesn't mean that it needs to bleed over to out of character. I have personally heard horror stories about people who are touched, grabbed, picked up, and moved because they were small enough, kissed, sexually harassed, mentally, physically, socially, every way you can possibly think of in World of Darkness games. And that has nothing to do with Paradox, White Wolf, World of Darkness, By Night Studios, or any of the other companies that might be involved. That has to do with the players and the storyteller. We need to keep each other safe. We come together and take time as a community to express our common interests, to dress up and play vampire. Who we play the bad guy more often than not in vampire games. Sometimes you can get away with playing the good guy. I'm not saying that you can't. You can play that love-lorn Toreador who just wants to keep their touchstones safe. That consensualist Salubri who has to ask the permission to feed from their victims. That werewolf who has decided that the only way to move past the unbelievable trauma of being a wolf is to try to be as human as possible. Or the unwavering hunter who's just trying to protect those who can't protect themselves. You can play the good guy in a World of Darkness game, but it doesn't stop at pen and paper. It doesn't stop with rock paper scissors. That good Samaritan that you're trying to be, whether it's vampire, hunter, werewolf, or any of the other plethora of splats that are out there, mage, changeling, all of it. We have to leave those non-consent actions in the story. When you are going to play with other people, there are methods that you use to make sure that not only you, but also those around you are safe. And it is up to the players to speak out when the kind of thing happens and doesn't go the way you want it to. Or if you see it happening and you don't want it to go that way and you feel uncomfortable. Because if anybody is brought in, even if there's consenting action between two adults and you're standing on the sidelines watching it happen, they're consenting and you're uncomfortable with it, you need to judge yourself on that. Is this really I feel weird about this, or is this I'm just not cool with it? Like, you do need to decide whether or not something needs to be spoken. If you feel like you need to speak up, you need to speak up. And as a storyteller, it's not about keeping everybody happy, it's about keeping everybody safe. There is a level of responsibility that comes with being a game master of any kind. I don't care if you're playing Dungeons and Dragons, Pathfinder, any of the World of Darkness games, or the army of other RPGs that are out there, this video is for you because that is something that needs to be taken in consideration. So, what does Voivode Maquette do when it comes to consent? Well, very first thing that I do is, thanks to a friend of mine, someone who goes by Worlds of Sin, they provided me with this amazing RPG checklist. This RPG consent checklist goes over various aspects. At the very beginning, it has your GM name. It's probably a good idea for your players to know exactly who they're dealing with. Who is the GM? Who is the storyteller? Because in a larger game, especially if it's like a LARP or if you're presenting at some kind of event or something like that, it's a good idea to just have your name out there so that they have something safe to latch onto. Player name is on there too. You can leave that blank because truthfully, if it is a red or a yellow, and we'll get into the details on that very soon, it doesn't matter who's presenting it. These are where you stop, and that is that. Now, a planned game theme is an important thing to put on to make sure that your players know exactly what they're getting into. If you have a story that's going to be centered around being trapped in a single location that has no way out, and you have somebody who has severe claustrophobic issues, it might be good for them to know ahead of time. Now, if this game were a movie, its movie rating would be what? G? PG? PG-13? R? NC-17? Other? This is also another good way of letting your players know exactly what they're getting into. How dark can your game be might set the tone for how comfortable your players are going to be in it. Now, this is what I absolutely love is the green, yellow, red system, and we are going to be touching on that multiple times in this video. Green means that you are enthusiastic for the consent. Bring it on. You are ready to go with anything that is being offered. Yellow is okay if failed or off stage. Might be okay on stage, but requires discussion ahead of time, or you're uncertain. This is a vitally important aspect of this. This option, this yellow, means that you need to have conversations with your player. In larger situations, I run a 50-person LARP at this point in time. If somebody checks yellow, I typically just see that as a red. I try to be incredibly just open to the concept of not making anybody feel uncomfortable when it comes to my games. And I still do a pretty damn good job telling a story. So there is no actual full-on restrictions when it comes to that. Red means hardline, do not include. Do not bring this stuff in. And there are certain things that you do need to take in consideration when you're getting into a game like this. If your storyteller hands out one of these forms, which by the way, link in the description, by all means, use this RPG checklist. If somebody brings this, if somebody has it so that they are showing what could and could not be in this game, and you put down like blood or something like that, maybe you shouldn't be playing in a vampire game. And that's not even me trying to be rude here. That's just saying that there are certain story elements that are difficult, if not impossible, to remove from a World of Darkness setting, depending on what you're playing. Do you have issues with big scary animals? Don't play werewolf. If you don't like the idea of feeling overwhelmed and trapped and just filled with despair, stay away from Hunter. There are aspects of these games that are just not removable. I run a Vampire the Masquerade. I run many Vampire the Masquerade games, but I'm running a Vampire the Masquerade LARP, and on the very first night when we discussed what our lines in Veils were, somebody came up to me and said they just can't do blood stuff. I looked at them very politely and I said, this is probably just not the game for you because blood is going to come up. We're playing vampires. I tried to be as polite as possible. And unfortunately, they did not decide. They deemed it not the right game for them, which I hope they found something that was more conducive to their setting. Now, this This amazing sheet, which I would like to put out, is copywritten by Monty Cook Games LLC. Cipher systems and logo are trademarked by Monty Cook Games LLC in the United States and other countries. Permission granted to duplicate for personal use. I would like to put that out. I would like to give Monty Cook Games the just the acknowledgement they deserve for putting out such a wonderful thing. And also, again, thank you, Worlds of Sin, for pointing this out to me. It has changed my way of running games ever since you gave it, and I highly appreciate it. This sheet is separated into multiple categories. The very first one being horror. Bugs, blood, demons, eyeballs, gore, harm to animals, harm to children, rats, spiders, and write in options. These are all things that, at one point in time, have come up in games that I've run LARPs, tabletops, whatever. And it is a good idea to be able to work around what your players need. Now, if you are writing a story and you have a vision and it needs to be done in a specific way, then you talk to those players who have issues. And hopefully you can move around those problems or find the proper group of players for what you're attempting to do. The next, uh, the next portion of this is relationships. Romance, is that something you want to see in the game? Is this a fade to black situation? Are there going to be explicit romantic themes? Are they going to be between PCs and NPCs or just between PCs? That's vitally important. Away from romance, sex. How big is sexual content going to be part of your game? This game is designed for adults, and therefore sexual themes could very well be explored. Again, is it a fade to black situation? Are the sexual scenes going to be explicit between PCs and PCs or just PCs? And also, again, more room if there are any topics in relationships that you want to write in on it. Next section is the social and cultural issues. Is your game going to be dealing with sensitive topics to the world? Homophobia, racism, real world religions, sexism, specific cultural issues. And of course, I'm sure players can think of other things that might need to be written. These are all things that I have played in games where they have been focuses. I've run games where these are the focuses because sometimes those stories just need to be told. And then after that, we have mental and physical health issues, dealing with health concerns like cancer, claustrophobia, freezing to death, gaslighting, genocide, heart strokes, natural disasters, paralysis, physical restraint, police, police aggression, pregnancy, miscarriage, abortion, self harm, server weather, severe weather, sexual assault, starvation, terrorism, torture, thirst. These are all situations that could very well be hardline no's for people. These are also things that some people may want to explore, even if it is hard for them, because these are things that people have to deal with in the real world, and sometimes we borrow things from the real world to tell our stories. We just need to make sure, as storytellers, that our players are comfortable with it. We need to make sure, as players, that the other players and even the storyteller is comfortable with it. That is something that I have found is overlooked massively in my years of storytelling. And at this point in time, my 28 years of playing in World of Darkness games, I have only had one player ask me what my lines and veils are as a storyteller. And I had never even considering that being an option. The idea that the storyteller might have a problem with something that a player might do completely took me by surprise. And it is now something that I find that I have to ask storytellers that I play for. Is there anything that you cannot have in your games? Anything that is hard for you to deal with? Anything that I should avoid for your comfort? Those are all massively important things. Step two to Maquette's personal consent checklist after having that amazing, legit, literal checklist is lanyards. This is not something that every game is going to do. I completely understand that, and I do this primarily. This is my LARP. Is we have the whole green, yellow, and red standard again, but for lanyards. Now, I bought these offline massively cheap, and I bought like 100 each. I wonder how the green one's going to look, actually. Ah, the yellow one's actually pretty bad. I have a yellow. I have a green, which is just awful in this. That's hilarious. I love that. Thank you, green screen, for being amazing. And we have a red. Now, each player at the beginning of the night is allowed to get a lanyard. Now, some players have decided that they're just going to stick with their greens or their yellows or their reds, and that is 100% fine. It can be something that changes from night to night. It can be something that changes from scene to scene. And the players in my games always have the option to come over and say, hey, I'm having a change of heart. I'm not feeling as well as I normally am. I'd like to trade my green for a red or something like that. And that is 100% understandable. There are no rules and no limits to how often you can change your lanyard. Those are your personal feelings put out there for everyone. Now, a green means that they are okay with positive touch. They don't mind if a person comes up and like puts their hand on their shoulder or possibly even like grabs them or something like that. Those are all fine as long as they are within the consent window. Green helps us to move the story along without having to pause and continue like after a conversation. Yellow insists upon that conversation. A yellow lanyard in my games literally means do not touch me unless you ask permission first. Explain to the person what they're going to go through. Explain what you have intended and take their yes or their no. It is important to put a scene on hold to make sure that everybody is okay out of character. And then, of course, the red is don't even ask. This person does not want to be touched. This person does not have any desire to have their LARP experience go to physical. And that is honored. That is just honored in the games. So those are our two big things outside of the standard World of Darkness consent stuff that we do in the games that I run. As for standard World of Darkness stuff, there is, of course, lines and veils, which in our LARP, in my tabletops, that checklist that we went over, that covers that. A line is a hard no. This is not allowed in the game. I will not participate in a game that has this. That's your red. A veil is something where you're okay fading to black. The Tzimisce scientist has captured a ghoul and is going to start ripping them apart and turning them into a shlachta. That can be a traumatic event for someone. That gets into like hospital stuff, which I've had people tell me that like they can handle almost anything, but as soon as it becomes surgical in nature, they become massively uncomfortable. I honor that. And therefore, if that Tzimisce is about to do something to that ghoul and turn them into a shlachta, as he screams one last time and it echoes down the halls, we fade to black and move to the next scene. That is an acceptable storytelling tactic. Players and storytellers both need to be assured of that from time to time. So, Lines and Veils. Thank you, World of Darkness, for coming up with that wonderful thing, which is located in the core book, mind you. So, if you play Vampire the Masquerade, it's at least 5th edition, you got no excuse not to know about that. Check it out. It's in the core book. It's a very good topic, and it does help with a lot of storytelling aspects. Next, also, and I would like to give this to By Night Studios. Um, and the LARP community for coming up with such an awesome way of doing things. Not only do they have their normal hand signals, such as I'm invisible and obfuscate, what level it happens to be, kind of thing, or I'm using an extra sensory power, or I've gone and turned into a full Krenos Guru. There are so many hand signals. But I think some of the more important ones are the out of character consent hand signals, such as asking, "You okay?" And them going, "Yeah," or "This is getting a little rough for me," or "I need to stop now." Those things are vital for you in a LARP setting specifically, but also I've come to using these kind of things in tabletops. In fact, I desperately want to make a basically like a I want to make little tags that are like the play button on a VCR, but it's green, the stop button on a VCR, but it's red, and like a pause button that's yellow. That basically goes, I need to express how I feel about this scene without interrupting the scene. Any kind of hand signals or just straight out like indicators that show that somebody might very well be uncomfortable with a situation not only should be accessible, but also acknowledged, not just by the storyteller, but also by the other players. That is really the big thing, is that making sure everybody is comfortable, making sure everybody is safe. Sometimes you might find in extreme cases it's not the troop for you as a storyteller or a player. They might want things that you can't provide. They might want to do story arcs that are uncomfortable for you. There's nothing wrong with that. Finding people that have the same ways, the same values, the same lines and veils as you, or at least can work with you, is a bit of it's a rough start. I will give you that. It can be difficult to find those people who you feel comfortable with. But, again, it is vital. It is vital to make sure that everybody is on the same page when it comes to safety and consent. That, my wonderful people, is pretty much everything that I had to cover today. I wanted to make sure that everybody understood exactly what getting into a game with me is going to end up being like. I am going to check on you. I am going to make sure that you are okay in and out of character. I'm going to make sure that you don't need anything to continue going, or if you need to take a break from time to time. I care about my players, about my community, and I really hope that most storytellers do. And I highly encourage any player character to stand up for their rights of consent. And if you get any pushback whatsoever, find a better group, because that is not what you want. Now, if you've got a game going on where everybody is like, it's hands on, it's show don't tell, it's we do it this way and that's the way we do it, and you're cool with that, great. You found a group of hardcore gamers that fits into your viewpoint. Don't ever just give in. If they're not a group for you, they're not a group for you. There are other groups out there, and if there's not another group in your area, start one. Show people what consent in gaming can look like. And you know what? One more thing. I don't want to leave this part out. I absolutely love this. Afters. This can be various things. We typically have a pregame. Pregame can take 15, 20 minutes. It's where we hand out the lanyards, name tags if need be, give anybody out of any in-character information they've picked up during the week from their downtimes, all that stuff. It's great. It gets everybody in the mood, gets everybody ready. Afters, however, brings everybody down. My group, my LARP group, tends to go to a restaurant, a late night, 24-hour kind of thing, and eat a bunch of carby, yummy food, and talk about what happened at game and just enjoy each other out of character. Sometimes scenes will carry over, but for the most part, the whole concept is getting back into the real world. At my events, when I host games, I prefer to have a circle where everybody gets together and talks about what their favorite parts of the game was, possibly where we need to improve, player shoutouts so that everybody has a chance to gush over what other people have done. Sometimes people just need a moment. Some people in a scene, sometimes people just need to separate themselves and have a think. I've had games where I've had to take that moment and sit down with someone who was having a hard time, or even I was having a hard time, and a storyteller needed to sit with me for a minute and work some things out, because even if it's not on a hard no checklist, sometimes situationally something can pop up. You could learn something new about yourself in that kind of situation. I've sat with people who have just needed a good cry after game. I have sat with people who needed to work out harsh emotions, whether it's with the game or with a player. It's all valid. Feelings are valid wherever they come from. It's hard to it's hard to give everybody exactly what they need. But being there is usually enough. So, I would like to thank you all for sitting and listening to this half hour of me just rambling on about this important subject that gets overlooked on a regular basis at a lot of games. I hope this inspires some of you to include the checklist, link in the description, or to set aside time to talk about lines and veils, or to give an after game moment to your players. Anyway, I am Voivode Maquette. This is Our World of Darkness. I will be putting this up on all three of the World of Darkness channels, also on the Patreon. If you felt this was a topic that needed to be addressed, please drop that like. If you have a story that you would like to share on either consent gone right or consent gone wrong, please feel free to share that in the comments, because without examples, a lot of people aren't going to understand what I'm trying to get out here and why it's so important. Share this if you think that someone needs to see it, because I assure you, if you're a gamer, there's someone that you know that probably needs to see it. And if you don't think so, you might be that gamer. If you are interested in having me as a storyteller, please check out my Patreon. Again, link in the description, as always. I have a full menu of everything that I offer in services, whether it is for one-shots or joining into the various chronicles that I run. That's up there, free to view. And I think that might be about it. I hope everybody has a wonderful day. It is World AIDS Day, of course, which is why we decided to have such an important and detailed conversation on this. And also, again, I would like to thank the sponsors at AIDS Assist and the AIDS Ministries, or the AIDS Ministries and AIDS Assist, for everything that they have allowed our world of darkness to do to assist in everything that they do. I have been honored with being included in such a worthy cause. I am Voivode Maquette. This is Our World of Darkness, and thank you for joining me. Good evening.